So this is the day 3 version of my Cataclone build. I'm now level 100 with about 48-ish hours played. And I haven't really put much into the build yet, so I just recently started gearing it, because honestly during the XP respec I was pretty much just doing Abyss. But now I've done the crit swap, and there's two kind of main differences between my planned POB and this current character that I want to highlight. The first thing is with Brutal Restraint instead of Elegant Hubris. So I don't know how I missed this and just completely forgot, but there's this thing called like Nasima, which gives you a keystone called a Second Sight, and that gives you 25% more critical strike chance when you're blinded. However, because my Kuri Maul uses hits can't be evaded, I don't really care about blind at all. In other words, it's basically a free 25% more crit chance, and especially when there aren't good Elegant Hubrises on the market, this is really good to go for. The second thing I want to talk about is Utila's Hunger. So normally the whole Utila setup is really cheap, and that's why I do it. But this build is kind of weirdly popular this league, so instead I've just opted for using a lot of rare gear. Even the Calm Signs that I wanted were like, 5 divines each, and it just felt like really bad buying a tier, 5 unique that's corrupted for 5D. So instead I went for all rare gear, and we'll go over some of the gear stuff. I think it's really interesting, and it actually opens up a path towards suppression cap on an already really tanky build. But first things first, I want to talk about the weapon. So first of all, I know I was using Marohi Urki for a while. If you don't have that, there were like a bunch of different options for early game weapons. Tiebreaker is actually really competitive. Tafoa's Felling is actually significantly weaker. Both of those were between 1 and 50 chaos for the majority of the first 3 days. But you can also reforge Fizz on a weapon, Contempt with a benchcraft, tons of ways to get a decent weapon. And Marohi, has his own issues. But anyways, now I'm in the crit weapon, and I've had a lot of questions about how to craft this thing. Step 1 is the only really hard step. You alteration a bunch of Kuri Mauls, one for T1 increased fizz, one for T1 flat fizz. You recom them together, bam. You want to make sure there's no other prefixes, just clean bases. And it's a 1 in 3 chance to hit. It's really expensive because I think it's like almost maybe 1,300 or something alterations per time you hit Merciless, which is T1 increased fizz. Anyways, that's step 1. Once you're done step 1, I think it's fairly kind of pseudo-deterministic, at least it gets something usable. So from here, I would cleanse the bases if there's anything there. And then I go for plus, crafted mods. Prefixes cannot be changed. And then any sort of craftable prefix on here. So I'll just take increased chaos damage because I know that it exists. So 3 crafted mods. And then from here, I use a Veiled Orb. This will guarantee me a suffix because my prefixes can't be changed. And then I want to block out damage over time multi. Doesn't matter which one. I usually pick fire for good luck because I never want that log. Ignite builds suck. So we take, remove this one, that'd be just remove crafted mod on the bench. Grab that, and then we unveil. And in this scenario, I would take this, crit multi nearby. Really, really strong, super powerful stuff. From here, it's just our multi-mod again. And then with this, I guess I would go critical strike chance with the hybrid. So I think that's this one. And then I craft on hits can't be evaded. And that'd be my craft. But there's a bunch of different things to go for on this unveil step. And I guess that's probably the one step that's like a little more interesting. So if we go to the unveil part of this, which is right here, undo. There's always going to be something that you can take. We're getting the nearby again. This time, attack speed is really good. Double damage is also really good. Damage per endurance charge I would also take. DD Focus is one of my ideal mods when I boss. I like that mod. DD Focus again. Crit nearby. You could also get crit chance and attack speed. I think of tiers, I'd probably prioritize like crit chance, then attack speed, then that crit multi nearby, then DD Focus, then DD, and then endurance charge damage. But yeah, that damage per endurance charge is just there. So yeah, that's basically the macecraft to go for. Really simple. It's just step 1 of alteration spamming for 2 T1 bases and then recoming them together for 1 and 3. Really painful to do. Hate doing it. This is the build now. I got about 20 million DPS or so with some of my buffs up. Pretty much the ones I don't have. Warbanner bumps that up a little bit more, but it's less consistent on a lot of bosses. And so this is the new tree. I decided to repath it mainly because I don't have the ostentation stuff. So I'm less jewel starved actually. So I don't need to run double cluster. I just don't have that kind of currency. I probably put like about, I don't want to say how much I put in. I would just say the value of the character is probably around 100 divines right now. There's certain things that are real interesting in gear wise. But yeah, this is the new repath tree. I decided to put Brutal Restraint up here. Eventually it might live over here instead. Depends on what I can get, but we'll see what good nodes are on here. But at this early point in the character, or earlier point, Pain Forger is still pretty decent for a wheel. Yeah, I mean, you can look at the tree. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm not even running the large cluster yet. Not full converting to cold with Rim Sorrow either. So I have Attack Leech for life here, and then I have Attack Leech for mana from a Jewel. The skill setup, I'm still on a 5-link Cyclone right now. This is actually not here. I don't know why Inlate's here. But I'm on a 5-link Cyclone. Still kind of poor-ish right now. Nothing else has changed too much as far as the gems goes, but I found space for leap slam faster attacks, and that's been really nice. The gem set was kind of always moving, but I'm playing with a lot of unreserved mana this time, so I don't need like life tap on my mark on hit, because when I'm mark on hitting, I'm hitting the monster, so it's all good. Gear wise, weapon I already talked about. The helmet is my flex slot, just like trying to get resistances on here pretty much entirely. This chest, I bought the base for 7 divines, and then I hit it with an essence of horror. This gives me crit immunity, because I have, more than 10 endurance charges. I went for a T1 suffix. I think I actually hit life on the initial roll, so I just stuck with it. You're pretty much just trying to spam horror essences on a fracture suppressed base, I think, until you get T2, T1 res, that sort of thing. Ideally be chaos res, but it is what it is. And then prefixes, you could go armor evasion, you could go life. If you go armor evasion with no life, obviously you can do different things, and then you can take the 15% increased life mastery on the tree. Gloves. Another suppression base I decided to go for here that caps out resistances, so these are sort of like all 3 utility slots. They're flexible, but I want to go suppression. And the reason why is because I found these. These were 1 divine on trade. I was going to use Death's Door, but they were like 4D, which is absurd. And then Adziri's was much, much, much cheaper, and they give, good move speed and like T1 suppression basically. And I realized from here, if I just get a T1 suppression roll on the helmet, it becomes really, really easy for me to suppress Cat through various ways. Anoint, Wormhole, pathing up towards Magebane this way instead of like doing this pathing up here. I could go for like when I go Mageblood, Quartz Plus will cap me for suppression, things like that. So this kind of enables me to go suppress cap on a build that has an absurd defensive ceiling. My amulet right now is still flexed. Ashes is just kind of overpriced in my opinion. 2 Chem Signs, they're still shitty, but it is what it is. Right, the reason I'm not using Ashes also is because I don't care that much about it. I realize that I don't need to be channeling. When I do hard content, I want to be, so I can, always have infused channeling up with Cyclone, but I don't even run that yet. And, it's just expensive. And then finally, Magnate. This is probably going to need to get replaced fairly soon. As the rest of the gear becomes more specific, and as I want to really round out my defenses and get things like Chaos Res Cap, a rare belt becomes better. You can also get things like Crit Multi and like Res and Life on your Jewel with the rare belt, so that's really nice because Stitch and Vise. You can get crit flash generation from there. I just think it significantly outpaces Magnate in the late game. But for now, this is nice. Flask-wise, I just want to talk about 2 of them. The rest are just, utility. Diamond Flask, I've mentioned before. I'm using this instead of Bottled Faith because I think this just has better uptime for the most part on even bosses. Bottled Faith is really good when you decide you have enough damage to one-shot the content that you want to farm. But I'm kind of doing generalist stuff right now, so I might put it in, might not. And then Prismatic Tincture, this is still normal. Finally, the jewels. Interrogation is self-explanatory. It's an alt-element scaling build. Brutal Restraint, I've talked about. Watchers, it's the Precision Watchers that I kind of had in my pre-league POV. And then on the jewels, you're mostly looking for, I think, 3 main mods after the Mana Leech. And they are Crit Multi with 200 weapons, Crit Multi with fire skills, I guess also melee Crit Multi, and then max life. So yeah, pretty straightforward build for now. It looks cool. I'm really glad that there's some really deep endgame pieces for me. I think like this chest, I probably want to replace other than implicits, and it's going to be the basis of what sets up the next defensive shell. This is probably the last video I'm going to do on this build, so if you want to see what this build looks like in the deep endgame, I mean, you can check my profile probably, or like just check the stream in like 2-3 days, and I hopefully will have it set up to kind of be the final vision of the build, and get these numbers to closer to like, I don't know, 200,000? We'll see.